My name is Brandi, and I will be here every week to offer language tips and instruction to help support any of you that might be studying now at first-year university or college level here in Canada. And hopefully these language tips will also help support anybody that's looking to take the CAEL test. Now, the CAEL test is the Canadian Academic English Language Test, and it can be taken for two main reasons. The score on the CAEL test itself, if it's high enough, will allow any applicants entrance into a Canadian post-secondary institution. So pretty much every major Canadian college and university does accept the CAEL. There are close to 200 of them, as a matter of fact, and counting. You can see here a list of some of the more major or more well-known, I guess, schools across the country, but there are many more. So you can check out our website at cael.ca to see the full listing there by province and territory. Now, the second main reason why anybody might take the CAEL test is if they're looking to pursue a specific career. So there are many employers as well who are looking to see that their applicants meet the minimum language requirements before they're hired on. So some of the more common employers would be the ICCRC, the Real Estate Council of Alberta, TESOL Ontario, and again, many more. So you can also visit the cael.ca website and you can see a complete listing there of other professional associations. Now, in order to either pursue your career or to enter your studies at a post-secondary institution, you're going to need to take this language test, the CAEL, in order to show that your skills are strong enough to be there. So the CAEL test itself is what we call an integrated skills test. It will assess the four components of the English language, namely reading, listening, writing, and speaking. These skills are usually combined. So throughout the test itself, you might be reading an article, for example, and then speaking about what you've learned in that article, and then maybe even writing an essay about it later. So this is what we mean when we say it integrates the skills. It combines them in different sections, which is more or less what we do with language and life anyway. So the CAEL test is a good reflection of the language skills you would need, again, either for study or for work purposes here in Canada. The test itself is topic-based. So all of the reading articles, all of the listening lectures will be focused on different topics that are derived either from a first-year arts or science background. So again, you've got a few examples here in front of you. You might be reading an article, for example, all about music. And on another section of the text, you might be listening to a lecture about ecology and so on. So that's how the topics are generated from. It's what you could expect to be studying if you did attend a post-secondary school here in Canada. Now, the test is a long one, as you can see. It is about 3 to 3.5 hours long, as a matter of fact. You would write it in one sitting, which is similar to what a lot of final exams would look like at the Canadian post-secondary level anyway. The CAEL test itself is divided into 5 different parts. Part 1 is the only part of this test where you're speaking only. You've got 3 questions to answer verbally, and then you move on to the integrated sections. So from parts 2 to 5, you'll notice these little red brackets here on our screen, and they're demonstrating the different skills that you will be integrating together for each part of the test. So in part 2, for example, you'd be reading and then speaking about what you've read. Part 3, you'll be listening and speaking. And in parts 4 and 5, you're no longer speaking, but you're doing the other 3 core components of reading, listening, and writing. Now, in part 4, you will be writing a long essay type question. In part 5, you will be writing a shorter response that would be about a paragraph in structure. So before we go into the CAEL test, it's really important that we have a very strong foundation in writing with complex sentence structure, with paragraph writing skills, and with essay writing skills. And starting next week and every Thursday, I'm going to be giving little mini lessons. We're starting with the writing components to, again, support anybody that's currently studying at a post-secondary school, or those of you looking to do well on the CAEL test and then begin your studies then. As I mentioned earlier, this is a topic-based test. Each part will have a different topic. So if you're reading about music in part 2, you would be listening to something different in part 3. Again, maybe criminology or something to that effect. You don't have to have any background knowledge on the topics themselves. The CAEL test is a language test. So all of the information that you'll be using to formulate your answers on the test are going to come from what you're reading about and listening to on the test itself. Okay, so don't worry about preparing all of these topic-based ideas. It would be impossible to prepare for all of them. There are so many. What you need to do is come into the test with very strong language skills, and then you'll be prepared, we hope, to answer all the questions that are asked of you. Now, the test itself is scored on a scale, and we call them bands. So we start at a 10 at the low end, as you can see. This would be somebody that's just starting out and learning the language. And at the high end, at the top of the chart, is a band 90. This is the highest score anybody can achieve, and it shows expert proficiency in the English language. It's very hard to achieve, even for native speakers. The average score that most schools and most employers are looking for would be about a band 70. All right, and that won't be the same across all schools and all employers. Each school and each boss will create their own minimum requirements. So it's really up to you, the individual test taker, to do your own research and double check with the schools that you're applying to, or again, the employers that you're applying to see what score they're looking for specifically. But as a general rule, 70 is about average for many of them. And if you look at what a band 70 achieves, it shows that you've got adept proficiency. And adept usage of the language means you've already got a pretty strong foundation in your skills, but you're still developing some skills in areas of weakness. And that makes sense, because if you consider starting off your university studies, you'll probably be there for a couple of years. So over the time of your studies or over your time at work, you will hopefully develop your skills further and improve upon them. So you might start at the 70 and then climb that scale as you go. All right, now there are two ways that you can actually take this test. This way is sort of the longer standing version of the test, and it's delivered completely online, but at a test center. So you would access the CAEL.ca website and you would look for the next available sittings in a city nearest to you, wherever you live in the world. So people would actually go to the physical test center, like you see here. This is a picture of Vancouver's head office, and you would be given your own individual workstation with the computer in front of you. You'd be wearing a headset, and that's what you'll listen to for the instructions and the lectures. And that microphone you see attached there is how you're going to record your spoken answers. All right, you never meet with a human examiner for the CAEL test. All parts of the test are done online, just like you see here. Now, I will say that this picture was taken in the fall of 2019. So as we all know, with the current pandemic, we have to observe social distancing measures. So currently, many of our test centers are opened again in the world, but you would never be seated side by side with another test taker. We always observe the best health practices. So there would be empty seats between you and 6 meters or 6 feet rather of minimum space. All the sanitization is done, and test takers right now will be required to wear a mask in order to sit safely to do the test. So please keep that in mind if you are looking to take the test this summer and into the fall. Okay, and that might change depending on what we hear from the health directives going on. But for now, that's where we're at. This is the exciting program that I wanted to also mention. You're still taking the test on a computer, but we're calling it CAEL Online because some people are able to do this now from the comfort of their own home. So you can go to the CAEL.ca website to see how you would register and to understand more about the program. But instead of going into the testing center, you could take the test from home. This is a brand new program. It's been around about 3 weeks now. It just started in the middle of July, and it is starting here in Canada because the CAEL is a Canadian test. So it's been rolled out here and will be rolled out, of course, into the States and then overseas as well. So if on the website, when you're going to register, if this program is not yet available in wherever you live in the world, just be patient. It takes time, as you might imagine, to get the technology rolled globally across all available countries. But that's our end goal, is to have it at a city or country near you in the near future. All right, and it's been received very positively from the people so far who have taken it. So that's an exciting option, particularly in the face of this pandemic. So I'm going to leave you there. I wanted to just introduce this CAEL test to you today because, as I mentioned, yeah, a lot of us would need to take a language proficiency test anyway, whether you're entering school or pursuing work. So now you know a little bit more about how this test, the CAEL, is structured if you're studying for it. If you've got any questions, please feel free to either type them there in the live feed, or you can send any questions to our Instagram and so on. We'd love to hear from you because I'll be back, as I say, each week. And any questions that you send us now and over the course of the week, I'll be happy to answer if I can next time. Okay, so I will leave it at that, and thank you for joining us. I will be back next week to continue with some language instruction, focusing on writing as we begin. Take care, everyone, and goodbye.